Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's see. I'm also doing this live stream to hear whether or not the quality of the camera remains stable. Because I remember the last time I did a live stream in this room with the Wi-Fi, I had pretty bad quality. So I'm curious if that is now resolved, because I now have better Wi-Fi. All right. As always, if anyone has any questions, go ahead. That's what these live streams are for. Without further ado, I'll do a small workout. Let's see which one have I put in this one. Is this a blue one? Yellow one, perfect. Oh. What's your workout been like lately? I have not worked out much at all, in fact. I've been working a little bit with the bull worker. Done a little bit of bench pressing, few squats, but very, very little. So this is my first real workout in 2 weeks. I actually had the flu and COVID, I'm not sure. Pretty heavy flu, at least. And I've not worked out for a good 2 weeks at all. Well, one thing is for sure, this is a better time to do live streams. Remember last time I did one around, what would it have been? Early in the day, and almost no one was watching. Will you make more YouTube videos soon or just stick with live? Well, I am planning to do YouTube videos soon again, but I don't really want to make any promises right now. Would be otherwise kind of a disappointment if I'm gonna promise things and not going to commit. But at least for now, I am thinking of doing YouTube again, probably in January. Do you do live videos on Instagram? I do not. Never considered doing live streams on Instagram. I don't know if it's a good platform to do so. And my YouTube is vastly bigger than my Instagram or my other forms of social media. I guess that my Facebook is kind of large. For those interested, you can find my Facebook through the Bullworker Facebook group. I'm there if you search Mac space Ismo. I don't know, I guess I could try what would happen if I did a live stream on Instagram. But I don't have high hopes. Oh, for those of you who have not tried it, try Isomotion. It is very effective. It is arguably, in my opinion, the most effective exercise form that you can utilize with the Bullworker. What's your plans for Christmas? Just spending the holidays with the family. And what are you guys going to do? I assume more or less the same. Which is all here? 50. Alright. I haven't tried ISO yet, looks interesting. Yeah, I highly recommend it. If done properly, it's very efficient for bringing the muscles that you train to exhaustion. It's also a great way because a lot of people say that you cannot utilize enough range of motion with a Bullworker, but if you use isomotion, you absolutely can. Because if we, for example, take the rear deltoids, let's say I do this move to train this shoulder, right? You don't get much more range of motion than that. This is maximum range of motion. And this is very challenging. And I feel that this works a lot better on a bull worker than, for example, an iso bow. I'm not sure why. Might have something to do with the fact that there is extra resistance coming from the middle. Okay. No, thought there was a new question. There was not. Have you ever felt kind of depression when you started working out? Like feeling no energy or motivation to do anything at all? Yeah, I think most people have experienced that. Especially, well, typically I find that exercise is a great relief from, I don't want to necessarily use the word depression, but any form of feeling down. I think that exercise typically stimulates, but when you have to get started, perhaps in the beginning, then there might be a little bit of, how to put it, you're just not mentally there. But that's an illusion. The moment that you start, the moment that you have a good workout, typically that mindset of, as you call it, depression shifts very quickly to, in my experience, to wanting to be more active. You just have to get the motor running. And typically what I consider to be the best way to get started is to do something that you can do for a lot of repetitions and do it with very little resistance. So do a lot of push-ups, do a lot of squats, and do that for a few days. And typically that, in my experience, that feeling of like having no motivation to do it, that quickly subsides. Yes, I thought it was used with the bull worker, with the 20-inch bull worker. Oh, you mean isomotion? Yeah, you can absolutely do that with a steel bow. I will do it with a steel bow in a bit. Zou je een keer een bullworker beginner video willen maken? Ja, dat kan ik doen. Zeker. Ik denk dat de meeste workouts die ik heb zijn ook geschikt voor beginners. Dus vanuit daar kun je ook beginnen. Aan de andere kant, de vraag zou zijn, wat zou je graag willen zien in een beginner video? So what he is asking is if I could do a video for the bull worker for beginners. And the question that I would have for anyone who's interested in that is, what would you like to see in such a video? What would you like to see in a video, in a bull worker instruction video specifically meant for beginners? Because in my opinion, most of the workouts that I have are suited for beginners. They are informative. They explain what the exercises typically do, but perhaps there's something specifically that some of you guys would like to see. I'm also just gonna say this right now. I am currently working on an ebook, and I think that a lot of you people have already seen it on the Bullworker Facebook group, which is very suited for beginners. It's very simple. It kind of explains what you can expect from exercising with the Bullworker. It explains a few of the exercises. It explains kind of the results that you can expect, and it gives a few exercise tips. And the ebook is completely free, by the way. So the moment that it's finished, I will upload it here. Well, not upload it here, but I will upload a video, put a link to the ebook, and you can download it for free. It costs you nothing. My favorite bullworker guy. I am the best of the best. I have the iso bow. Let's see your progress. There's very little progress. I have not been working out much at all. I had a very, very, let's say, demanding 2 years behind me, which is why I've been so inactive. I have the isobo. That's awesome. Oh, I already read that one. I'm a high, raw vegan and getting fabulous gains with the bulwark. That's awesome to hear. I have to say that for me, when I did a diet it was not, I've never done a raw vegan diet, but I was doing a diet that was very high in carbohydrates, not very high in protein. I was not able to maintain good results on that. I absolutely required a lot of starch and a lot of plant protein to maintain my gains and also to grow. And when I did that, especially when I start to eat a lot of carbohydrates in the form of starch, I was getting very good results with growing mass. I was the biggest I've ever been. I was probably a good 25 pounds heavier than I am today. And I was also able to be very active. I was able to work out multiple hours a day. There was basically no way to get me exhausted. I'm thinking of doing exclusive bull worker for my upper body starting next year. That is a good option. Let me know how it goes. Of course, ensure that when you do that, you actually use it in a way that is efficient for growing muscle, or at least is efficient for whatever goals you have. If you want to get stronger, then use enough force. If you want to grow muscle, then be sure that you use enough time and retention. And be sure that you use enough effort on all of your repetitions. I'm 75% raw, 20% cooked, and 5% vegan junk food. I do eat a lot of avocados. I must say that when I did it, I was eating very little fat, and I think that that is probably the reason that I initially failed on it. I think that if I had just eaten enough fat, not even so much the protein, if I had just eaten more fat in the beginning, then I probably would have been able to do quite well on a diet that was mostly raw. But I must say that I believe that eating a lot of starch is what worked for me really, really well. Thank you for the advice, no problem. Yeah, the most important thing is, arguably the most important thing is fat. I think that's the biggest mistake that most people on a vegan diet make, is that they just don't eat enough fat. And if they eat fat, then they typically eat it from flaxseed and walnuts, and they just don't get enough monounsaturated and saturated fat, which are absolutely essential. Especially the monounsaturated fat. I think that you can get away with minimizing your saturated fat intake, but you must have at least the monounsaturated fats. The monounsaturated fats are so under-recognized. It's very strange to me, in fact. I don't really get it. I don't know why there's not more attention for monounsaturated fats. It is, in my experience, so clearly important for healthy hormonal levels. I don't use oils. No, that's advisable. Don't use oils. I think maybe you could argue that virgin olive oil is not too bad. I believe that coconut oil typically is more processed than most people realize. And there's also the thing that I'm not sure. Actually, I don't know how processed virgin olive oil typically is. I heard that the virgin olive oil that you buy in stores is not actual real virgin olive oil, which you typically only can find in certain health food stores, and it's very expensive, the real thing. Yes, I think the nuts and seeds and avocado is doing it for me so far. It's very important. It is essential. Like, without it, you cannot do it. Without it, in my opinion, you cannot even do a vegan diet if you don't eat enough fats. What about peanut butter? I love peanut butter. It's very tasty, but the problem is Uh, Hello, Alhamdulillah, if I say that correctly. Uh, Peanut butter is very high in omega-6, so that's one thing to consider. Yes, Mac the Vegan on YouTube debunks olive oil as a health food. Okay. Well, it's interesting that one of the only diets which consistently has shown to be at least better than most standard diets is the Mediterranean diet, which is arguably quite high in olive oil. But again, I will emphasize this. I don't think that the olive oil you buy in stores is the same thing that they used to consume in the Mediterranean. That's kind of interesting. Like you have the in your name, I think you have the Kaaba, and next to that you have a glass of beer. That's a little bit contradicting, isn't it? Is it not? Like asking questions. I do think we need some animal products for a healthy diet, but I'm no nutritionist. I think that well, humans are naturally omnivorous, so there's absolutely something to be said there. To what extent we need animal products, I think that it depends a lot on your genetics. I would argue that if you are an Inuit or you are a Maasai, then likely you would need a lot of animal products. But if you are a European, if you are a person from the Middle East, if you are a person from Asia, then the amount of animal products that you actually need, it's questionable. I like peanut butter. Yeah. Well, I like it too, but I barely eat it. No palm oil. One. I'm from Italy. We only buy extra virgin olive oil. I'm from the Blue Zone Island, by the way. So you are from Sardinia. Is that correct? Sardinia, right? Awesome. Like, I think that uh, if I ever visit Italy again, beautiful country, one of my favorite countries, actually, like culturally amazing, then it's gonna be one of like Sardinia is probably a place I would love to visit. It's actually difficult to get real cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, exactly, right? And I think that the real stuff tends to have. It's not completely clear, right? It tends to have these little bulbs of fat in the bottle, as far as I recall. That's the very expensive stuff, and that's very hard to come by. I I quit drinking alcohol and it saved my life. I rarely drink alcohol. I could drink some right now. Why not? I could take a shot of Jägermeister. I could totally do that. Kaba and beer is just a joke. All right. I don't know what. Yeah. I don't know what for you is a joke. If it's the beer or the Kaba, right? It's different for everyone. Well, you look Middle Eastern, so I assume that the glass of beer is the joke. Oh, you are from France. Well, you could still then be from the Middle East. I'm from the Netherlands. I also lost 55 pounds. You you're Edward, right? Correct? Like I've seen I've seen your weight loss journey. That's very neat. Kind of really feel like taking a glass of Jägermeister right now. I mean, it's the holidays, we can get away with it. I'm tuning in late. Nah, you're not. We're only 25 minutes in. Think about going for an hour. Mixing the one with the other is a joke, as they don't mix. No, they do not. Yes, from the Netherlands. A couple of questions. Did Chrisman send you one of the limited edition Bulwarkers? No, he did not, and I don't think that I'm deserving of it, as I've been so inactive. So I'm glad that he did not offer it to me. Although I must say that it is absolutely the most attractive Bulwarker that I've ever seen. And yeah, I hope that they do make a mass-produced version of it. I assume that they will, but I don't know. Like, Chrisman has not told me anything about that. Any chance your book comes out in hard copy using Amazon printing services? I doubt it. And it's a free ebook, so it makes no sense to bring it out in hard copy. It is mostly interesting for people who are complete beginners, and it's interesting for people who want to have a more clear view of what you can expect from the Bulwarker, as I know that there's a lot of misconceptions about what a Bulwarker can do, and these are a few of the things that I really want to clear up. I so wanted the limited edition Bulwarker, but it was too expensive. It is very expensive, absolutely. I still only use the older 80s Bulwarker. It does fine, doesn't it? I mean, you don't really need much else, but I will say that if you have the option to change springs, that is a huge benefit. You have to pull the trigger on the new ones. I can highly recommend the newer ones. For me, it was a complete game changer. Like, when I used the classic one, I still use the classic one a lot. It was a gift from my father. But if you have the ability to change springs, it makes it so much more usable for, a lot of different goals. It makes repetitions a lot easier, for example. Yes, it looks nice. The only thing it's missing are those inner grips that the X5 have. The inner grips. Oh, right. Yeah. There's like several layers of cable. I agree that from the way that Chrisman explained it, yeah, the X5 absolutely has some very interesting benefits in that regard. I don't know exactly how it works. I would have to have one in my hands to truly understand it, I think. But it seems to me like it has a ton of benefits if you have multiple layers of cables that can also adjust the yeah, the range and the amount of resistance. Last time I saw you live was 1 or 2 years ago, I think. That's quite possible. I have done a few live streams this year, but yeah, I've been very inactive for personal reasons, which I think I will clear up in a video, but the last 2 years have been very demanding on my part. I have Dree Springs Classic Bull, a green classic, onto my second X5, broke the first, doing something stupid. That's interesting. It's not easy to break a Bulwarker, but it's possible, I'm sure. And a Bully Extreme. Yes, the new Bulwarker Classic with the 5 springs is great. I also have the X5 and fixed spring Bulwarker Classic. I think you'd like the original X5. Adding springs to it is wow. Yeah. Yeah, I hope that I get a chance to try it. I probably will. I assume that the Bullworker company will eventually mass produce some form of the X5, and likely that I will be sent one so I can give my opinions on it. At least that's what I expect. I'm curious about dietary variations for muscle gain. How much do you vary your own diet, and do you recommend sticking to a fixed diet or frequently changing it to effectively build muscle mass? I think that if it kind of depends on the person, because some people they gain fat very easily. I'm not one of those people. For me, it's almost impossible to gain fat. So the only thing that I can even do to gain extra, like the only thing that I can do to gain muscle mass quicker is just to eat more and more and more. And what typically is the easiest for me to eat a lot of is starch. And I think that that is for most people the thing that is the easiest to consume and to digest. But that is different for everyone. For some people, that's gonna be yeah, fat. Some people do better with more protein. For me, it's starch, and I think for most people, it's typically starch. So I can live on one specific diet for a very long time, and I do believe in things like seasonal eating, but if the goal is to get as big as possible, then you should just eat as much as you can to a point that it is still to a point that it is at least your own body can handle it. I think that one mistake that a lot of people make is that they try to consume more than they can even process, and then they get loose stools and things like that, and they don't even digest everything that they're eating, and that's also a waste. So what I found for myself is that typically if I eat 4,000 calories, that's more than I could possibly need, and that's about as much as I can process. And more than that is just I don't gain weight any quicker, and it's just means that I will go to the toilet more often. That's it. See if I can even let's see if I can add to that answer. So yeah, very little variation. If I really want to gain muscle mass, it's just a ton of starch. I broke the X5 putting my hands on the inner grip and pushed on the straps with my foot. I broke like nothing. That's interesting. The cables are made from, well, what do you call it? Kind of the same material that the isobo is made from, right? So this should not be that easy to break that, but it's possible. I like that the, wait, did I miss something? No. I like that the 60th anniversary edition is shorter too. Goldilocks size, like Christmas said. Yeah, I think that a 20H model might be the ideal size. I cannot say, I don't own a 28-inch model. Are you raw vegan like Fruit Eater? No. For me, when I did a diet that was mostly fruit, I didn't do well. I think that I could have done better on that diet had I eaten more fat, but eventually I just felt really bad. My personal experience with a fruit-based diet that does not contain enough fat, as what a lot of the raw vegans recommend, for me it was probably health-wise the worst experience of my life. But I think fruit diet is just too much sugar, even if it's good sugar. I actually think that the amount of sugar even is not healthy at that point. And it's like there's plenty of glucose in a diet like that, but it's I think more fructose typically, depending on the fruits that you consume. Especially if you eat a lot of dried fruits, things like dates, figs. I think too they have a lot more fructose. Even if those things are typically considered to be great for stabilizing blood sugar, my experience is that if you eat too much of those, then you're not gonna feel too great. You're better off eating. You're still well off eating a lot of fruit, in my opinion, but you also need the starch, especially if the goal is to gain muscle. Hmm. So I guess I'll keep eating lentils. Yes, that's a very important one. What are your thoughts on lentils as a part of a muscle building diet? I think that as far as plant protein goes, lentils are probably the best source of plant protein that you can get. I do 45 different bulwark exercises, around 15 a day. Just go through the whole book and then start again. Okay, well, I'm sure that if you do that properly, then you will get good results. Would you ever consume animal fat without eating meat? So things like butter, things like dairy. I'm not opposed to it. I think that people should, if people feel good eating that stuff, then great for them. I don't think people can make an entire diet out of just eating animal foods. Unless you are a Maasai or if you are an Inuit, but, you know, I am not, so it's not for me. Also, interestingly enough, the things that I can handle, like butter, I've never had a problem with butter, but even if it was raw milk, just I could consume it to a certain extent, and if I consumed it for a longer time, then I became what were the problems that I got? I became very blurry in my head, and I became kind of lethargic, which took a while, but I remember that if I drank a ton of raw milk, eventually I didn't feel good. What's your go-to carbs? If I have to choose, then well, many sources. Arguably, if you eat a lot of lentils, if you eat a lot of sweet potatoes like I do, that's gonna be a staple of carbs. If you gonna uh, dates is a big source for me for carbs. Raisins, dried fruit. Mm, yeah, I guess fruit in general. Right now I'm eating kakis or Sharon fruits. We live in 2023 and we still don't know what a perfect human diet is. Is it carnivore, fruit diet, fat diet, fish diet? Doctors are preaching everything. I think that the ideal diet, I have an opinion on this, but it's perhaps not very easy to explain. I think that humans adapt a lot quicker to a diet than most of us are willing to admit. And if our ancestors were eating it 200-300 years ago, then we at least have some affinity for consuming those same things. And considering the foods that we have been eating for the last 12,000 years, since agriculture, bread, meat, fats, things like butter as well, fruits, that's probably quite close to the ideal human diet. At least for people who are living in the part of the planet that I live in, the Middle East, Asia. It's more or less the same thing. And it's very interesting. If you look at the caloric intake of people who live in all of these areas, who live in like the largest part of the planet, and you're not going to put any restriction on what they're eating. They have no idea about diet whatsoever. Typically, what you will see is that they will always eat 20 to 30% of the calories from animal foods, and the rest is plant foods, and it's mostly from starch and from fruit. And that's where most calories come from. And that's very consistent with what you see pretty much anywhere. Like there's some variation, like in Asia, they eat a little bit more carbohydrates. In the West, they eat a little bit more fat. But all in all, it's pretty much in this ratio of 30%, 20 to 30% animal foods. Rest is all carbohydrates, starch, plant foods. And then typically the uh, caloric intake that you see worldwide, it's like 50 to 60% carbohydrates, 20 to 30% fats, and 10 to 15% protein. So that's how I figured it out. That seems to be the most consistent thing. So I've fixed the question. I have found the answer. At least that's to me the most consistent finding that I could come up with. Do you have any of Marlon Birch books on bull worker or isobo exercises? Marlon Birch, who I've never interacted with, and I have no opinion on him, but he has blocked me on Facebook. I've never spoken a word to him, and he blocked me. I don't know why, but yeah, kind of funny to mention that. I've never read any of his material. I'm sure that it's good. I'm sure that he's very well read into fitness. Clearly, the guy has results, but I really have nothing to comment on other than that. As I say, like the guy blocked me. Don't know why. Lol, you're the competition probably. Yeah, I don't know. I like, I'm sure that he's a great guy giving great information. I don't know why he blocked me, but hey, if he feels better doing that, then good for him. Would I recommend his stuff? Probably, because the guy clearly has the results to show, right? Like he clearly has the years of experience. He has a lot of different methods. So I'm sure that his stuff is interesting. A lot of people preach it. So like I have no bad words for the guy about him. I bought a couple this past week on Amazon. Right. No, it's just I just eat eggs, fish, some meat, and fruits. Just because I'm afraid I'm wrong. Well, I think that's a pretty safe bet. I think that overall, if you eat a balanced diet and you are living a mentally healthy life and you don't live around too much pollution, then I think you will do better than 99% of people. And of course, don't overeat or don't undereat. And be sure that you get all the necessary micro and macronutrients. There was a doctor in New York City who studied the Inuit maybe 100 years ago. He lived among them for maybe. You're talking about. I don't know if that's a doctor. Fjalmir Steffensen, I assume you're talking. Or are you talking about Weston A. Price? He was not a doctor, he was a dentist. He had to get whale blubber shipped to New York City because he felt he needed it. Yeah, that sounds like Fjalmir Steffensen. I don't think that he was a doctor. I think that he was a, how do you call it, expeditionist? Wait, I'm gonna grab a chair because currently I'm sitting on this thing. It's not very comfortable. All right. Arctic peoples and some Siberians eat almost exclusively meat and fat with almost no plants or fruit. Yeah, and those people are adjusted to that, and they've been doing that for a very long time. And I assume it's very interesting that if you read about the Inuits, they will sometimes consume a little bit of fruit, but also as the New York City doctor, who I assume is Velmer Stephenson, pointed out, if he went too long without whale blubber or seal blubber, the same thing goes for the Inuits. If they go too long without eating seal blubber, they will start to feel sick. So if the Inuits eat even a small amount of fruit, and they eat a bit more than that, they become sick. They are very sensitive to that type of stuff. I think eating dairy products is unhealthy for human, but I love it and it's hard to stop. It's clear that some people have affinity for it. Europeans have some affinity for it. Typically, as I say, for myself, I simply cannot handle it. Raw dairy, it makes me sick. Fermented dairy is a bit different, but I remember even a bit things like kefir. Like, I didn't feel good at all consuming that stuff. But in India, they drink it a lot without trouble. A lot of Europeans can drink it without trouble. The Maasai eat it as a staple seemingly without trouble. So it kind of depends on your genetics. But I think we should go further to answer that. We are primates, and primates eat a lot more insects than meat as animal protein. Yes, but you have to consider that though that's interesting, right? Because a lot of people, they make the claim that, oh, they want us to eat sea bugs, and that's such a horrible thing. Now, I'm not saying that humans should start consuming very large amounts of bugs, but it is true that if you're going to look worldwide, there are people who live in tribal societies who eat insects without any trouble. It seems to be an excellent source of protein. I think if you're going to look back to us Europeans, and you're going to go back 2,000-3,000 years ago, eating insects probably wasn't a very strange thing. But it's also true that we've always consumed other sources of animal foods. I think that whatever was easily available, that is what we ate. And arguably, what was easily available was, well, sometimes insects, sometimes fruits, sometimes starch. Fish was probably a very easy source for calories, for protein, because there were all kinds of like simple methods to catch a lot of fish. Like, if you go to the Philippines, you still see a lot of people set up these traps to catch a lot of fish with very little effort. So more so than meat and dairy, probably fish was a very important staple. And probably fish was a more important staple than insects, because it's just easier to catch a lot of fish. Like, it's much easier to catch a lot of fish if you know what you're doing than any other source of protein. And also, there's a very big difference in primates. Like, a lot of primates actually eat some amount of meat in their diet, and it can be argued that our physiology is a bit different, and we are probably, like, out of all the primates that exist, we are arguably the best suited to consume animal products. They've adapted to the environment and have no other choice. Do you take a multivitamin? No, but it's not to say that I don't think that no one should. It kind of depends on your state of health. Some people who have a hard time. The thing is, it's very hard to figure out how to do a proper diet, and for people who are not deeply studied into nutrition, who don't know exactly what they're doing, you probably are better off with a multivitamin. You have to know very well what you're actually consuming to a point where you can comfortably say, I don't need a multivitamin at all. I cannot recall the name. I remember reading it a few years ago. Yeah, it's probably Velmer Stephenson. How's the pet rock business doing? It's quite alright. Could do better, but I cannot complain. I think Eastern European Slavics don't have much of an issue. With what exactly? Naturally, I don't think humans are attracted to bugs. Well, you have certain societies in Africa who uh, they consider it a treat to eat certain insects. Like they eat these very fat worms, for example. I forgot the name, but it's like a delicious treat to them. So it really depends on what you're adjusted to. If you think about it, the behavior that we are repulsed by insects is something that is taught to us from a very young age. Because when we are children, most of us put spiders or insects in our mouths, right? Because we don't know that it's disgusting until we are taught that it is disgusting. So I'm not saying that we would naturally seek out this as a staple of nutrition, but the being repulsed by it is something that we are taught. We don't have natural feelings that tell us if it's good or wrong for us, I think. Yeah, so that's what I have to say about that. It really depends on the part of the planet where you live, and I think that if you're gonna go back 2, 3,000 years ago, like you gotta know that throughout history, humans have done a lot of weird stuff when it comes to food. We even used to have something that was called, I think it's called necro medicine or something like that, and it essentially means you're gonna eat certain parts of human bodies. And this is something that they did in the Victorian era, so not even that long ago. Or no, actually, I think that they did this in at the end of the Middle Ages. And then yeah, they prescribed parts of the human body as a form of medicine. So throughout history, we've done all kinds of very weird things, and things like urine therapy was also something that we used to do in Europe. Celtic communities used to um, yeah, they used to engage in urine therapy. So like throughout history, we've done all kinds of weird things, like you wouldn't believe. And like even to this day, you could argue that if you go and look in Asia, they eat things like scorpions, really things that to us are, well, very disgusting. But to them, it's normal. Oh, someone is actually mentioning scorpions. That's funny. Yeah. To me, scorpions look like shrimp. I've never eaten them, but they look good. Yeah, in Asia, they eat them. So that's something to consider. Not to mention escargot, even though it's not technically an insect. I've eaten escargot. It's uh, tastes very rubbery from what I can remember. It's been a very long time that I've consumed escargot. What books have you read recently or this year? I've read a few. Which come to mind? Oh, strange. Nothing really comes to mind right now. I've read a few books about setting up a business. That's one thing. I like eating escargot sometimes, but I understand it can be disgusting for some. It's, yeah, a weird idea, but I recall that they taste fine. They're not disgusting. They kind of, in my opinion, it tastes good. Did you ever tell the story of why you wear hats? Yes, it's part of the frat boy. Do I say that correctly? The white trash European aesthetic. One of the books that I've read was, it's a very short book. It's from Alex Hermosi. It's about yeah, how to sell things essentially. Do you believe in God, or are you a religious person? I cannot really consider myself religious. I don't abide by any specific religion. I am not necessarily anti-religion. I am very skeptical of reality, but I would not completely dismiss the possibility of there being more, especially if you look at the fabric of reality and how extremely complex and bizarre it is. If you look both at the gigantic scale of what we're living in, and at the same time, if you look at the weird, bizarre laws of nature of quantum mechanics, then I think, and if you look at the mechanics of DNA and how all of that stuff works, then to a certain degree, you could argue that is creation. Like, we all work on the same program. We all work on the same system. It's all by DNA. It's all by protein folding and all of that. And if you look at how atoms work and things like that, it is really, really strange. It's very hard to explain. We still have so very few answers to how most of our reality works. So arguably, I don't completely dismiss the idea of a god, or at least this being created. At the same time, when it comes to life after death, the really the only thing that I can think of that is somewhat of, I don't want to say proof, but it's somewhat of evidence perhaps, is people who claim to have lived a previous life, people who have claimed to have been reincarnated. And a lot of those stories, you could say, are easily to dismiss. Some of them, for me, are very hard to explain. But that is something you will have to figure out for yourself. That's something you will have to look into for yourself. If it comes to religion, the religion that I think, I'm not very well studied into Hebrew religion to begin with, which is kind of interesting. But the religion that, like in that regard, fascinates me the most, which I think offers a lot of very interesting answers, which I think would have been very hard to give an answer to, especially considering the time scale, would be Vedanta or Hinduism. It's not, yeah, Vedanta is the actual name for it. So those people, they had a ton of very interesting, hard to explain answers to how the fabric of reality functioned. And like most other Hebrew religions, or well, most Hebrew religions that I've looked into, to me, they don't really bring forward something that makes me think this must be the answer. I don't outright dismiss it because I'm not a scholar on it. I don't know it well enough to really have an opinion on it. But I just have not seen anything yet that really convinces me. That's all I have to say about that. Let's see. Have I missed anything? No, I don't think so. The one thing that I'm not afraid of is hell. I just don't believe that. I don't think that by me not believing in a specific deity, I will burn in hell for all eternity. That's one thing I outright dismiss. Like, you cannot sell that to me. I feel in my being that that is just not going to happen. It does not matter if I don't believe in the right God or not. Like, that's not going to be the punishment for failing that test, at least. Let's see. I think I will stay on for maybe 15-20 minutes more. So if anyone has a question, then go ahead. A famous US psychology college teacher studied reincarnation all over the world for decades and believed now reincarnation might be possible. Yes, it's very interesting. You have many people who have tried to debunk reincarnation, and as I said, some of these stories, like I would argue, yeah, they're easy to dismiss, but some of them, it's very bizarre. It is very hard to give a logical explanation as to why that is the way that it is. So I think that most of the most consistent wisdom, it comes from India, or yeah, I would say India, when it comes to what all that exists outside of this realm. Like they give the most appealing answers, the most logical answers in that regard, in my opinion. That's my subjective opinion from what I've seen as far as religion goes. It also has a much more mature idea, in my opinion, when it comes to what is good and what is evil, and how there is a lot of nuance to those concepts. And like Buddhism as well, I'd say it has a more mature answer to the human condition in general. But I will also say that there is maybe not by the design of the religion itself, but perhaps by the interpretation of scholars. There are interesting points of view that can be learned from pretty much all major religions. I hope you have a better 2024 than the past 2 years, mate. I hope so as well. But yeah, I appreciate to hear that. I think that I will do a video about it. It's not the right time to talk about it now, but it has been, yeah. Essentially, it was impossible for me to do anything on YouTube consistently with so much, mm, yeah, things to deal with. But I also think that it is important to explain this eventually because it is a large part of, well, it is a large part of my development as a person as well. Thoughts on rope flow? Rope flow. I'm gonna Google that. It has something to do with exercise. This is not the same thing as a battle rope, right? No, this is something different. Okay, interesting. Is this challenging? I assume that this is not just to burn calories. I assume that this is, yeah, like this is sufficient for hypertrophy training. Okay, we have 6 more viewers. That is great. That means that I can end this live stream in not too long. Yeah, rope flow. I will look into that. Seems interesting. Can you do this with a skipping rope? Wait, now I kind of want to see more. It looks very easy. But I assume that looks can be deceiving. I will, yeah, I will try that. Interesting. Yeah, I assume that if you use a very thick rope, then maybe it's challenging, I don't know. I assume that it's not just for burning calories. Setting aside genetics, do you follow the 1 gram of protein per pound rule for muscle building? No. So, from what I have seen, the ideal amount of building muscle mass, when it comes to the amount of protein that you should consume, it's around 0.8 grams of protein. And that is for people who exercise a lot. So anything above that amount, and again, this is for people who are hardcore athletes, it doesn't appear to be useful. So that's 1/5 less than the 1 gram per pound of body mass. And the 0.8 grams per pound of body mass that I'm quoting, that is for fat-free mass. And there is also the thing that there is a range in this. It appears that people who have trained for a longer time, they are a bit more efficient with protein. So people who have exercised for a very long time, they might even get away with as little as 0.7 or even a little bit below that of grams per pound of lean body mass. I'm dealing with depression for years. Have you experienced it, and do you have any advices? Well, it's interesting. This is a question that I've thought about a lot. And I think that it's part of life to go through depressing periods of your life. I think everyone goes through really hopeless times. Everyone goes through times that they feel depressed. They feel that nothing really matters. And it feels that some people also experience anhedonia, which means that nothing, whatever they do, they feel that nothing brings them any form of joy. People feel stuck, like you have various forms of depression. The thing is, it's hard for me to put in words how I think about this. But I think that no matter how you look towards your situation, you really only have 2 options. And that is, you're gonna sit with this depression, you're gonna accept it, or you're gonna do something with your life. And no matter how you feel, those are the only two options you ever have. So you can decide to wallow in the depression, which is something that a lot of people choose to do, or you can decide, no matter how I feel, I am going to make the best of what I can. I'm going to do something with my life, no matter what it is. I'm gonna change the things that I can change. And if there is nothing that I see that I can change right now, then I will still try to find meaning somewhere. But I think that for people who kind of want to give up, they want to sit with that depression, which again is a choice that I think most people make if they are very, very depressed. In that regard, I would say, as cheesy as it sounds, seek out spirituality. Seek out how to feel fine with your current situation. Try to find a situation where you, irregardless of how your situation is, because that is kind of what the Buddhists teach. That's kind of what the Eastern religions teach. It's to learn how to deal with suffering and how to not suffer. But that is not the ideal option for everyone. Because there is a reason that you feel depressed, and the reason that you feel depressed is because deep down inside you want to do something. You want to get ahead in life. You want to improve. You want to do more. You want to experience life. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you are experiencing that, and some people experience that as depression, some people feel that experience that as a drive to go further and to try and experience more of life. These are really the two options you have. You can sit with your depression, or you can even try and seek out spirituality, and you can learn how to accept the suffering or how to not suffer. That's essentially what is being taught in those Eastern religions. Or you can say, I will fight back, I will do whatever it takes to get out of my current situation. And these are really the two options that you have, if we're going to be very sober about it. Have you kept up with Vegan Gains? No, I have not. I don't know what he is currently doing. Thank you for your words. It's hard to find a purpose every day, like what am I doing on earth in Today's life? Well, existence is a very interesting thing. I think if you really are going to reduce all the concepts of reality and what it really means, then to an extent you could argue that nothing has true value unless we ourselves give it value. We are the ones that create value. We create values to ourselves, we create values to the people around us. If you don't have anything for yourself to fight for, then fight for the people that care about you. If you don't have any people that care about you, then it's only just the more important that you fight for yourself. And if that is something you want to give up on, then my recommendation is try to seek out spirituality. Try to find peace within yourself. Because that's really one of the main parts of spirituality. True spirituality is to, and true inner peace is to be in a position where you don't want anymore. And the reason that we feel depression is because we want more and because we try to find meaning. So you have two options. And I think both seeking out spirituality or seeking out meaning in life, in a certain way they contradict one another, but they are equally valid options to equally valid paths to take in life. He has been nothing but depressed. Yeah, he has been depressed for many years, right? Yeah, it's strange to me that I don't know what drives his depression. Do you collect stuff or are you more a minimalist? I collect bullworkers. Now, there's nothing specific that I collect. And nothing that I really consider a true collection. I don't consider myself a minimalist, but I do believe that I have a healthy idea of materialism. In that there is really only so much materialism that can truly bring you joy. And anything above that is, yeah, it's not true joy. So, but people can form an attachment to a collection, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's just nothing that I'm particularly interested in collecting. Like maybe I have some Pokemon cards or things like that, but I don't have any real personal attachment to that, so I don't really consider that a collection. I have a lot of rocks though. Yeah, actually, I have a few interesting things. I have a few fossils. I think that fossils are pretty cool. Yeah, why not? I'll take a few of my fossils. My grandfather, he was a real collector. He collected watches, post stamps, uh, cigar boxes, I think also certain bottles of wine, things like that. This is the tooth of a mammoth. And I got this true story when I was a very young kid. Some guy did construction here in the house, and he needed a pencil sharpener, and I gave him a pencil sharpener, and he broke it. And I was not upset about it, but he said he would make it up to me. And I assumed that he would buy me a new pencil sharpener, but this is what he brought. And the tooth of a mammoth. Pretty funny, right? Yeah, really, really very awesome. Very awesome present to get, especially as a very young child. Yeah, you're never going to forget that. So this is a shell, not very impressive, and this one, a tribulite. Mm. Yes, it's a mammoth tooth. Money and possessions don't bring me joy. Well, I think that money brings happiness in the sense that if you have enough money, then you don't have to worry about money. And that's the joy that you get out of money, that you don't have to worry about it. It's freedom what you can buy with money. Oh, I do have a fossil like this. Yeah, I have a few fossils next to these three as well, but these are a few of the most interesting ones that I have. All right, so if people have any questions left, I will otherwise likely close down the live stream within a few minutes. We will go until 10 p.m., so 3 more minutes, unless questions keep coming in. I do have wood fossil too. Oh, I think I have a few of those as well. Yeah, very, very interesting, actually. Fossilized wood. Does it not have a very particular appearance? Let me see. Fossilized. Yeah, I have this as well. I have a lot of those. Yeah, I have some gemstones as well. I have what's it called? Completely forgot the name. Red rock, not a ruby, but it is completely forgot what it's called. I think that the name is a little bit like granite. Are you coming out with your ebook to drive recipients to a website? I currently don't have a website, but in the future I could possibly use it for that. However, likely what I might possibly do is I will ask people to give up their email to download the ebook. And then I will not sell any emails, of course, but then I'm not sure if I am going to do this because I don't see myself doing a newsletter. But otherwise, they could sign up for a newsletter, which they could just as easily unsubscribe from if I were to do that. But I don't really have particular ideas of how I will use this ebook for business ends. Some believe in rock energy like lithotherapy. Yeah, the idea that rocks emit vibration. Well, everything emits vibrations, right? I'm gonna grab myself a glass of whatever I can find. Water, most likely. It's a shot of Jägermeister. You could always come out with more books that people pay for, or training programs, merch, etc. Yeah, I could do that. What I found is I hope to see you later live soon. Bye, man. Have a nice evening. If I'm going to sell a book, I really want it to have unique value. So I am not of interest to just pump out books like it's nothing. And I've also found that to write a really good book, it's not very easy. It takes effort. I have written a few books that were close to being done, and while I still consider that I might finish those books eventually, I kind of lost inspiration for it, and I also kind of came to a point where I wasn't really sure what it was really truly going to add. I have a very heavy piece of fossilized wood from the petrified forest. It looks so woody that people are amazed when they try to pick it up to put it on the fire. Yes. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I have a few pieces as well, I think, but I would really have to search for them. I have an offline friend who is a romance novelist and she shares info about training, life, and upselling. Yeah, that's very cool. So I've been writing for several years, and interestingly, I've never published anything. But I don't know. For me, it's very challenging to write something that I'm truly happy with. I'm very interested in seeing how people feel about the book that I will bring out. Perhaps people are will be very happy with it. Perhaps there is a lot of things that people will critique. If I have a better idea of how people feel about it, then perhaps I will also know whether or not it's worthwhile to bring out a book that one can pay for. I do have a lot of content that is already written up, and it would not take that much effort to make it into a finished book that would be worth, in my opinion, worth selling. But then I would have to know whether or not people are actually willing to pay for that. And also be sure that people would not experience it as a disappointment if they do buy it. Do you type your book? Yes, always. I do not write from the hand. I don't have a great, yeah, I don't know. Don't like to write like this. And also my, God, what's it called? The way that I write is not particularly beautiful. What I did for a while was I was um, doing voice memos, and I was putting that into text, and that helps you to be a bit more productive, I guess. But also, your thoughts are a lot less filtered, and it's as I say, like to truly write a book that is written in a way that people can easily process it, that is valuable for most people. It is certainly a skill because I've been writing for years, and I'm happy that I've never published anything because I frequently came to the conclusion that if I was going to publish the book at that point in that specific writing style, a lot of people would have trouble understanding it, um, or it would, or the information would have to be would be better off to summarize it more, or sometimes it would even be more important to expand a little bit on certain things. So, in a way, I try to be a little bit of a perfectionist, but on the other hand, I feel far from being a perfectionist in that regard. So I don't know um, how satisfying the book that I am going to bring out is will be to read for people. But again, I did not write it with the expectation that the standard would be very high. This is a book that is mostly suited for beginners and mostly for people who want to have a better understanding of what they can expect from Training with a Bullworker. Handwriting, which genre? So, the books that I have in upcoming are on the Bullworker training. And a big book that I'm working on is on nutrition. And that book on nutrition, that's going to be what I consider to be a very interesting book. I will not reveal too much about it, but let's just say that it's a book that gives what I consider to be very fair critique on most popular diets. And that's all I will reveal about that. Gosh, now I kind of want to drink more. But it's already quite late, so better not. Okay, I will close the live stream when the viewers drop to 7. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So if anyone has a question, these are the last few minutes that you'll get, most likely. Well, thanks for the stream, no problem. And thanks for joining. Let the party begin. You're making me thirsty for Jägermeister. I'm making myself thirsty for Jägermeister. I now want more Jägermeister. It's been so long since I've been drinking properly. When was the last time? Yeah, a very long time. 5 months ago. No, more. But at this age, it kind of feels like that is just like blinking with your eyes twice, so. Have you read the Bullworker Bible? No, I've not. That's the book from the Bullworker company itself, right? Have you... Oh, thanks for the stream as well, mate, and answering questions. No problem, and thanks for joining. Oh, I have a question. Have you ever tried to use multiple Bullworkers to do a deadlift? Yes, I have. Yeah, say 2 or 3 of them and do the deadlift. Yes, I have tried that. I've done that. And yeah, I mean, it works on the end of the movement. Like at the beginning, it's not challenging, even if you do it with 3 Bullworkers, there's very little resistance. But at the end, you do get a pretty good contraction in the back. And I would argue that with the red spring that they've brought out, which is now not a new invention by this time, but that is, you know, the red spring alone is quite sufficient to do a proper deadlift, in my opinion. If you're gonna deadlift with 3 Bullworkers, you might as well just do a deadlift, right? Seems reasonable to me. I'm gonna turn down the light a little bit. Search a squat. I think I know what you mean, but I'll Google it anyway. It was invented by the same person who invented the bench press, correct? Oh, is there a split squat? I think so. I think his name is Hackenschmidt. George Hackenschmidt. Inventor of the bench press. And what else? I think he invented the Zercher squat. Oh, he invented the Hack squat. It's not the same thing. I think. I wonder, do you have a female friend who follows a diet that's similar to yours? That would be interesting, since I think we have some different nutritional requirements for some minerals, such as iron. That is correct. Women do need more iron. I know women would do several different diets, all with the idea of that they're doing it for health reasons. What I find interesting to note is that, in my respectful opinion, a lot of those women don't appear to be very well read into nutrition, but they tend to be quite healthy regardless what they do. But that is, it appears like that on the outside. I don't know what's going on the inside. So I've seen women who do vegan diets. I've seen women who do vegetarian diets. I've seen women who do very, um, yeah, who do like sort of Mediterranean diets, I would argue. I have known people who do low carb diets who typically do worse, in my opinion, compared to other people, compared to the vegans or the vegetarian women that I know. It's hard for me to say who does the best, though. I would say one woman who sticks out to me, who really looks very healthy, who behaves very healthy, in my opinion, is a vegetarian. So she eats some dairy. She doesn't eat any meat. She is 35. She looks maybe 29, something like that. She looks very healthy, very beautiful woman. And generally, as far as I know, doesn't have real health problems. On the other hand, she is much more than a nutritionist. She does a lot of things for health. Like, she's a yogi, and she does all these like alternative therapies to remain healthy. But I would argue that women should, yeah, whatever diet they do, definitely iron is one of the things they have to watch for. I think that that is one of the, yeah, the problems that women can, yeah, kind of like, iron does not have to be a problem on a vegan diet, but you will absolutely have to be aware of how much iron you're getting from your diet. Is it possible to squat with the bow classic? Guess would need isoflow strap thing. Yeah, I would say you would need an isoflow for that. Then you can do a squat. Try a Zercher squat, a lunge, or split squat. There's probably enough range of motion depending on your height. Do you have the World Fit ISO trainer straps? No, I do not. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm thinking of getting the ISO Flow, but the price point seems a bit much to me. Well, for what it's worth, the quality of the materials that are being used for the ISO Flow are very high end. Comes in a very nice package. You get an instruction manual. I think that it also comes with an ISO bow. So a free ISO bow, if you want to put it like that. So you do get something for the money that you pay. Ah, that's why you ask about the World Fit. If it's a cheaper alternative, yeah, I guess that's something you can consider. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I cannot tell you what the best investment is. I can only say that the ISO bow, again, you pay for the complete package, you get a lot of value with the ISO Flow itself, and yeah, the quality is very good. But you know, if there's a cheaper alternative, straps that are also very, very tough, hard to break, that might be a good alternative. I've done battling row pulls, so I know the friction training can be as tough as you want it to be. ISOFlow will probably be my next purchase. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with the ISOFlow. Also a great gymnastic tool. Great for gymnastics, as I was saying. Isomotion, isometric exercise, also isotonic exercise. And you can also combine it really well with the bull worker. But, you know, if you want to have a very cheap extension tool for the bull worker, you might as well use a towel, in my honest opinion. But if you want to use it for all the other exercises, then then an ISO Flow is a great purchase. By the way, I want to know, since that is actually the reason that I started this live stream, is the quality of the live stream good or decent, or is there a lot of pixelation going on? Because I know that that was an issue that I had to deal with the last time that I was live streaming in this room. Because I was doing a live stream on this Wi-Fi. Ah, it's decent. Okay. So it's not particularly good either. That's kind of disappointing. But at least that's good to know. And the next time that I will do this on my internet data. Got the steel bow a couple months ago. Been loving it. Gotta love the steel bow. I need something to extend enough so I can squat. Yeah, I would, first of all, if you're gonna do that, I would just try out a towel. And see if that does the job. Because if that does enough, then... If it's just for that, then I would not recommend you to buy an ISOFlow. And again, the ISOFlow is a great tool. You can use it for a lot of things. But if it's just as an extension, then first off, try a towel. Ah, it is good. Okay, yeah. Fair enough. I turned down the light. Turn it up a little bit. It's okay, some pixelating now and then. Okay. That I can live with. A little bit of pixelation is fine. I think the most important thing is that the sound quality is best, but you also want some decent camera quality. Where do most of you guys come from? Do you come from the States, from Europe? I know I have a lot of viewers that come from India. But I think most of my viewers come from the States. By now. Sound quality is very good. Alright. Canada. Okay, interesting. London. London. I'm from London, UK. Okay. US. I'm considering to visit London probably early next year. It's definitely one of those cities you have to see before you die. Probably either at the end of January or yeah, anywhere between the end of January and March, I think, of visiting. And then maybe I will stay there for maybe a good month or two. I used to live in London, but London, Ontario, Canada. There's a place in Canada that is called London. I think that it has to do with the Wi-Fi. San Fran. Hmm. Well, look at that. Small world. Oh, really? Wait, what? Hmm. Yes, we have a lot of European names here. I live near Paris, Ontario, Kitchener. Used to be called Berlin. Ah, that's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, the world is more connected than ever before, but yet there is more distance between individuals than ever before. Interesting how the progression of the world works. This modern society. Something we cannot, at least we have not yet adapted properly to. All the technological and social, societal advancements that we've been going through for the past 300 years. 7 viewers, and I'll close down the live stream very soon. How late is it anyway? Oh, it is quite late. I've been going for longer than I wanted. How do you think they could make the Bullworker better? They can always add more springs. A Bullworker is what it is. It is a Bullworker. There's not that much that you can change before it becomes a completely different machine. So I think that what the X5 does with the straps, that is very interesting. That could be considered a great standard for all Bullworkers that are produced by the Bullwork company. Other than that, I have asked myself this question before, and I think you can be very creative with this, but as I say, at a certain point, it's no longer a Bullworker. Good night to you as well. Oh. No problem. I'm glad to provide. Well, no worries about that because there are only 5 viewers now. Oh. I lost connection for a second. I like how they have the pad basically baked into the end of the grip on the X5 Pro. Not sure that I understand what you're saying. Yeah, an X5. I'm sure I'll get the opportunity to try one. Ah, you were looking at the lights. After that one shot of Jägermeister, I really want to get drunk. I've not been drunk in... When was the last time that I've been drinking? Really long time. That isn't necessary for that limited edition. It won't slip because the material is... Ah, okay. I thought that you meant something like that. But it's good that they've done that. Yeah, and the grips, they seem very flat, which also offers more stability, I assume. Oh, I can start a poll. I didn't know that. Okay, that's stupid. Okay. All right. Since no one has any questions left, yeah. Well, I'm actually up to 8 now, but I'm going to end the stream. Anyway, everyone, thanks for joining, and yeah, it was fun to interact with all of you, and I hope you all have a nice weekend, and yeah, I assume that perhaps I will start making videos at the beginning of next year. I also, of course, wish you all happy holidays, because, well, it is the season for holidays, so. And yeah, got nothing else to add. Let's see, let's end this poll. And yes. Yes, again, thanks everyone for joining, and see you in the next video or the next stream. Goodbye.